Prime Minister Sogavere, he took the money from China, right, and he agreed to cut ties to Taiwan. But Malaita, which is the largest province, their premier, so they're sort of divided, they've got some autonomy between the provinces in the Solomon Islands. They have said no, they want to keep their ties with Taiwan, they want to keep their diplomatic arrangements. And so it's that province in their Malaita that has rebelled, and that's where all the uprising is. And so the violence is centered around the parliamentary buildings, and it's also sweeping through Chinatown. So there have been, unfortunately, 3 deaths as some of these buildings caught fire. And that's where the majority of the peacekeepers, the army, and the police have been sent to try and calm the situation. Now, Australia has sent people. We've had Fiji send people. We've had Papua New Guinea send people. So there's a lot of interest in the Pacific region about what's going to happen in the Solomon Islands. And no one's really sure. In all likelihood, China's influence will be secured, because if the peacekeepers go there, then the government is more likely to succeed than this rebellion against China.
So by going in to help quell the uprising, the Australians are actually helping China because they're tamping down the reaction to the Chinese bribe.
Yeah, so the government are in league with China. So if you go there to help the government secure the area, then you're essentially upholding China's influence in there, instead of allowing the uprising to continue and seeing if perhaps this streak for independence and to restore the Taiwan relationship with Solomon Islands can succeed. So I have a feeling that's what will really happen. And if that does, China will have had another victory in the Pacific. And think about it this way, they've already got a 99-year lease port on our Darwin port in the top of Australia. So they've been moving all the way down.
Huh. Yeah, China does that. It provides financing, for example, to airports or canals or mines. And the terms of the financing often convert very quickly from loans to equity. If, for example, a third world country can't pay, before you know it, like the airport in Entebbe is now owned by China, things like that. It's shocking. I was just Googling Solomon Islands, fewer than 700,000 people. So it's not teeny tiny. It's not like, Nauru, which has fewer than 100,000 people. But still, if you think about it, $730 million for a country of 700,000 people, that would sort of be like a bribe to Canada of $40 billion. Like that is proportionately a shocking amount of money, but to China, it's just a rounding error. How is it just a gift? Is it a foreign aid grant? Is it a contract? Like, that's a pretty heavy quid pro quo, saying, here's the cash, now dump your friends in Taiwan. Like that's as brazen as it gets. How's it actually, like, is it that expressly tit for tat, or was it like a more of a nudge, wink, wink?
Well, it's not about the Solomon Islands. They're not buying the Solomon Islands. What they're doing is buying Taiwan and the future control of the Pacific area. So they're buying Taiwan. And so what we've got there is they're trying to basically distance Taiwan from all of its diplomatic friends, so that when they roll in to take back this escaped province, they won't have any friends and they won't have any way of getting to Taiwan to defend it. So that's what the Solomon Islands is actually about, as well as all their other debt trap politics. So you talked about areas where they go in with a big bribe and then they're able to control the region. So Sri Lanka has a deep water port, which is crucial to global trade. And China now owns that deep water port after Sri Lanka was unable to make payments on the grant that they used to build it. And the same thing has happened at the bottom of Pakistan with the port of Gwadar. And it's happening all across the world, including a major airport in Africa and just dozens of little Pacific islands. So they're buying strategic points for military and trade, and they're also trying to isolate their next, basically, geopolitical victim.
Huh. Well, it's incredible. I mean, on the map, the Solomon Islands pretty much is in the middle of nowhere. Not to be rude, but it is. But still,
it's not that far away from us.
I mean, I was going to say, other than it starts to surround Australia. So there's obviously this Taiwanese aspect to it, but it's also like, if you could knock off these little islands one at a time, you've built a little wall around Australia where you could have air bases, you could have naval activities. It's scary, and I think you're exactly right. They're just trying to roll up the dominoes, and then when the terrifying moment comes, they'll have all these assets in place. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.